Unmute చేసుకో. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good, very good. How are you all? Fine?
Good, ma'am.
Nice,
Good.
nice. Had your lunch? Yes, had your
No.
lunch? No, not yet. Okay. Do you read for the class? Did you read for the class?
Yes.
Yes? Only one yes? Okay. Shall I start the class now?
Yes.
Okay. This side? No sound coming from this side? Yes? Okay. So today's topic is carcinogenesis. Right? So what is carcinogenesis? Something about cancer, isn't it? So before we start about the cancer, we should talk about the history of cancer. So what is cancer? Cancer is the term coined by a Greek physician. Know who gave these terms? Hippocrates, the father of medicine, and this word cancer refers to crab. Why crab? You have seen crab? You can see the crab below here in the picture, isn't it? Because the tumor, the cancer cell, looks like a crab. It has projections from the cell and it has features like the crab. So it is called cancer, Greek word. So you can see the similarity in the cell presentation and a crab, right? And there are other terms called as neoplasia. This is a Latin word where neo means new growth, which is uncontrolled. And the neoplasia need not necessarily be malignant. So neoplasia is new growth. Neoplasm means cancer or tumor. Right? Oncology is the study of tumors. Oncology is the study of tumors. Greek word onkos means it's a tumor. So this is the history of cancer. So you can call it cancer, neoplasia, neoplasm, and the study of all this is called as oncology. Here. Next, coming to the presentation of cancer. Cancer is the second most common cause of death after cardiovascular disease, and it is said to be increasing with increasing age, but it is not so. Even in children in the age group of 3 to 13 years, they can die due to leukemias, cancer of the WBCs. Normally, the cells differentiate, divide, and die. This sequential manner, okay, which is under strict control. But when the control is lost, then cancer comes. And cell starts growing without control. It is characterized by loss of control of the cell growth, leading to excessive proliferation of the cell and cancer cell spreads. That's called as metastasis. We'll study about it. Then these mutations in this genome of the cell can be spontaneous. It causes cancer. And every time a cell divides, there is chance for the mutation to occur. So in the lifespan of a person, the chance of cancer, as long as it survives, the chance of cancer per generation of the cell division increases. So it is old age related cancer. And also something induced by the environment, like oxidative stress, causes oxidative damage to DNA. Increase the mutation. Okay, so the oxidative damage also increases mutation of the genome. What is that? DNA. So we'll study what is that mutations, etc. So what are the types of neoplasms or tumor? Benign tumor. You have benign. Benign means it is not malignant. It is okay. Malignant means it is cancerous. The benign tumor, it grows by simple expansion. The cells expand in size. They remain localized and they're encapsulated in a layer of connective tissue and they do not spread. So that is benign, but it's a growth. And you can remove it by surgical intervention. And it's not life-threatening. Example, moles. You have some moles and warts. Many of us may be having a moles and warts on the body. So they are not life-threatening, but they can convert to malignancy also. They are prone, chances are there. Coming to malignant tumor, that is called as neoplasm. That is cancer. It's uncontrolled proliferation which is spread to the various parts of the body by, as I told you, metastasis. The movement of the cancer cells in the body by the process called as metastasis. So cancers are classified again from the epithelial cells. They're called as carcinomas. If cancers arise from the connective tissue, it's called as sarcomas. And these malignant tumors are life-threatening, and examples are lung cancer and leukemias. So coming to carcinogenesis, there are theories. One of them is clonal theory. So we know what's a clone. A single type of cell which divides, proliferates, called as a clone. So clonal theory of carcinogenesis, that is, the cancers derived from original cells which undergo transformation. If it's one type of cell, it's called as monoclonal. And many of the malignant cells are monoclonal type. That is only one type of cancer cell, specific cell. They undergo transformation. The transformed cells or the clone, it undergoes alteration of its genetic material. The DNA changes are there. So, and the cell loses the regulation. The stimulus which controls its proliferation is lost. It does not listen. It becomes disobedient. It does not listen to the regulatory stimulus, which govern the replication of the cell and death of the cell. Therefore, it becomes free, a free bird. It starts multiplying, uncontrolled. But the cellular level, what's the problem? They characterize at the cellular level by excessive cell proliferation, uncoordinated growth, and tissue infiltration. The tissue also is getting infiltrated with neighboring cells. Okay, it moves across the tissues. At the molecular level, there's a disorder of the regulation. That is, disorder of the growth regulatory genes. And this is a stepwise fashion. It develops in a progressive manner. So this is the onset of carcinogenesis. And coming to the etiology of cancer. So what causes? Now, what is cancer? How it was derived? The discovery of cancer, etc. Coming to what are the factors leading to cancer? That is the etiology of cancer. They are multifactorial in origin. The causative agents of cancer include physical, chemical, genetic, environmental factors, and their examples are radiation energy, chemical compounds, viruses. We have come across all these, isn't it, in our daily life? So what are these compounds which give rise to cancer? The first one, the agents causing cancer, that is radiation energy. So we are familiar with all these, isn't it? UV rays, X-rays, gamma rays, radioisotopes. So these are all used in intervention, diagnosis, in factories, industries, so many places. But these are, if you get exposed to them unnecessarily, they are cancerous. For example, UV rays. What is UV? Ultraviolet rays. They cause pyrimidines, seen in the DNA. Purines and pyrimidines in the DNA. Pyrimidines form dimers. Actually, purines and pyrimidines have to be combination. Here, the pyrimidines will join among themselves. They form dimers. And the DNA is double stranded. It breaks, or the single strand of the DNA breaks. And the strand breaks are linked across. Cross-linking of the broken strands occurs. The DNA damage occurs because of ultraviolet rays. X-rays and gamma rays are there. They form free radicals, hydroxyl radicals, superoxide, which damage the DNA. And example is skin cancer and leukemias. Radiotherapy for treatment, when radiation is given as a treatment in cancer. That radiotherapy also may induce malignancy 10 to 30 years later. So it's used for treatment of malignancy. It may give some other malignancy around 30 years later. So diagnostic X-rays, they are not very much risky. There's no increased risk in X-rays. If the pregnant lady is there, then the fetus can get leukemias if abdominal X-ray is taken. So there is a risk. So they ask when the lady is pregnant, and they ask to avoid taking X-rays for such patients. Radioisotopes used for treatment, like radium-containing paints, they use not treatment for decoration. Radium glows. The paint which glows, it causes cancer. The people who paint and who are associated with this industry, it causes osteosarcoma. Sarcoma means from the connective tissue. Bone is a connective tissue. Osteosarcoma means connective tissue cancer. Radioactive mining is done, mineral mining. So it is a professional hazard. Lung cancer. Radioactive iodine is given for treatment or for diagnostic purpose. There's increased risk of cancer around 15 to 25 years later. So these, in the use of everyday life, or diagnosis or treatment, they can cause other cancers. The second point is chemicals. About 80% of the human cancers are due to chemicals. It's an occupational hazard seen in benzene, asbestos factories. You have zinc sheets, asbestos sheets for roofing. So people who are working in the factories producing zinc and asbestos, they have occupational hazard due to the profession. Diet, you eat some food. Compound called as aflatoxin produced by mold, Aspergillus flavus, present in the groundnuts, that is peanuts. So they say don't eat the groundnuts which are having some layer, fungal infection. Because fungus, that white powder is thick on the layer of the groundnuts, don't consume it because it has aflatoxin which can cause liver cancer. So it is because of dietary toxins, okay, and some foodstuffs which contain some adulterants. Lifestyle, cigarette smoking, lung cancer. Others like therapeutic drugs, it can be used for treatment, but can be metabolized to another carcinogenic agent. We saw in last class about detoxification, where a drug can become more toxic. Okay, so therapeutic drugs can become carcinogenic. Chemical carcinogens, what they do, they bind covalently, they bind physically to cellular macromolecules. Example is DNA, which is a very favorite for this mutations. They form adducts. So the chemicals bind to the DNA, forming adducts, means they are joined to the DNA. The carcinogens interact with the purines, pyrimidines, or the phosphodiester groups of DNA. Which part of the DNA? The purines, pyrimidines, and the phosphodiester groups, leading to DNA damage. This DNA damage is called as mutation. What is mutation? It's a change in the nucleotide sequence of the DNA. So you have A, G, C, T, C, A, all that. So in the nucleotide sequence, A, B, C, D, E, F, any change in the C or D or A, any point, anywhere there's a change, it leads to a mutation. It leads to a mutation in the genome. Coming to the mechanism of chemical carcinogens, because you see about many of the cancers because of chemical carcinogens. So what you're seeing here is an indirect carcinogen. Okay, it gets activated. So indirect carcinogens need not be directly toxic. They get activated to form intermediate carcinogens. Form an intermediate carcinogen, and then this indirect carcinogen can get activated to ultimate carcinogen, and then acts with the DNA. It acts with the DNA, and then causes DNA damage. The DNA can be repaired. It undergoes replication, and it can undergo mutation. That is, the DNA has got mutated because of the carcinogen, which has become carcinogenic, and the cells are initiated. And now, when you apply a promoter, another chemical, the promoter can cause expansion of the initiated cells, leading to malignancy. So, indirect carcinogen can become ultimate carcinogen, that is ultimate, the final compound, by metabolisms. And we have studied metabolisms. What is that? Detoxification, cytochrome P450. So indirect carcinogens can become metabolic active by cytochrome P450 in the endoplasmic reticulum of the liver cells, especially. And they form indirect to intermediate. Intermediate to ultimate carcinogen. That is, this carcinogen property is electrophile. What is electrophile? Deficient electrons. So whenever there's deficiency, it keeps searching. It keeps searching to attack somebody. So the electrophiles are electron deficient molecules which readily attack nucleophiles that are electron rich. Example is DNA, RNA, and proteins. So the ultimate carcinogen interacts with this DNA, RNA, and proteins and becomes carcinogenic. Then other than this, there are, in this slide you see, direct carcinogens. Direct carcinogens which do not have to undergo any metabolism, directly they are active and do the same steps. Okay, they directly with the target cells they interact. So indirect becomes direct, direct acts directly, okay, by metabolism. Now, example, we'll study about this chemical, this initiation. I told you initiation, then the promoter is there. So there are phases of this carcinogenesis, initiation and propagation with the help of a promoter. So we'll see one example, chemical carcinogens. Example is skin cancer or skin tumor in mice. You can see a growth in the mice skin. What happened? A mice was painted once with benzopyrene, a chemical compound. There was no skin tumor. Then this is followed by several applications of clotanoid, one more chemical. The mice developed tumors. Tumors developed in the mice. Application with croton oil alone, no skin tumor developed. Only croton oil, no skin tumor developed. So there are phases here. What is it? Initiation stage. Benzopyrene is the initiating agent. Rapid, irreversible due to modification of DNA, mutation occurs. It's rapid. Next is promotion stage. Slower, that is months or years. You get exposed, it's initiated, you have grown, and you are exposed to another chemical, that's a promoter, where the cancer can develop. So this is slower stage, takes months or years from the application of croton oil, that's a promoting agent, which contains of active agent, chemical compound, which contains active agent like phorbol esters. Okay, so this is the promoting agent. Initiating agent was benzopyrene, and promoter was croton oil. So the promoter causes the initiated cells to multiply, become cancerous. Most carcinogens are capable of acting both as initiators and promoting agents. This is one example of a initiation and promotion which occurs in 2 stages. Now, some chemicals can be carcinogenic. So we have a seal, FDA approved, Food and Drug Administration approved chemicals, etc. So they do some testing of the chemicals is released in the market. That is the AIMS test, the laboratory test to check the carcinogenity of chemicals. So what do we see here? We see a rat which has the liver of the rat is extracted, and you grow some strains of the bacteria in a test tube. It's taken, that is Salmonella typhimurium bacteria. This bacteria is a mutant. It contains histidine negative gene. Histidine negative gene. And this bacteria and the liver extract are mixed together. The bacterial strain and liver extract are combined, and with a suspected chemical, with a suspected mutagenic chemical, they are placed in a petri dish containing culture growth media in a well which is cut. The liver extract of the rat, the bacteria strain, the Salmonella typhimurium bacteria, which is mutated for histidine, and the growth medium contains or lacks histidine. Growth medium lacks histidine. And since when you leave this culture, what happens? You incubate it some time. What happens? If there is a chemical is mutagenic, if the chemical is carcinogenic, it causes cancer. It causes growth of the cells. Cells by themselves, they cannot grow because they are having bacteria which is mutated. But if you have a chemical which allows the growth, then the cells will grow, indicating the chemical which is added to the mutated genome has caused some alteration, allowing the mutated bacteria to grow. So that indicates the chemical is carcinogenic. If you do not see any colonies of the growth in the medium, it indicates the chemical is not carcinogenic. So this is called as AIMS assay, used for checking the potency of the chemical or the toxicity of the chemical. Coming to the third compound, that is viruses. These are called as oncogenic viruses. A scientist, American scientist, virologist by name Francis Peyton Roos, who in 1911 made the discovery that a virus can cause cancer. But nobody believed him because the truth nobody wants to believe. But he won the Nobel Prize for the same discovery in 1966, very much later for the same discovery. People accepted this. So 1911, discovery was made. 1966, it was appreciated and Nobel Prize was given to the scientist, this American virologist. What did he say? He demonstrated that cell-free filtrates from certain chicken containing sarcomas. Sarcoma is connective tissue tumor. It promotes new sarcomas in other chicken. So the cells from one chicken which is having a sarcoma, when introduced in another chicken, produces sarcoma. So this was demonstrated by the scientist Francis Peyton Roos in 1911. So the virus-linked cancers are responsible for 15% of total cancers. The first is chemicals, followed by this virus cancers and radiation. So this is the etiology of cancers and the agents causing cancer. So what are the oncogenic viruses? A little bit about oncogenic viruses. So viruses, how do they get this property? The viruses travel through the human body. So while traveling through the human body, some of the human genome has incorporated the virus. and therefore it gives an advantage to the virus to grow in the body, because during its passage to the humans, it integrated the genome. And the cancer cells, the person having cancer, they found the presence of viral particles, enzymes like reverse transcriptase, which is present in the viral genome in the human cells they found, and the occurrence of the base sequence in the human genome complemented the tumor viruses was found. They indicate the involvement of viruses. So the virus is there, the viral particles were present, the enzyme was present, and the viral genome was found in the human genome. So this indicates oncogenic viruses are present, and the cancer is caused by these oncogenic viruses. These oncogenic viruses may contain either DNA or RNA. So they can be DNA or RNA. In humans, the major viruses causing cancers are Epstein-Barr virus, which causes Burkitt's lymphoma, nasopharyngeal carcinoma, B-cell lymphoma. So these are the common viruses caused by Epstein-Barr viruses. Hepatitis B virus causes hepatocellular carcinoma. Examples: human papilloma virus causes cervical cancer and a variety of tumors. Human T-cell leukemia causes lymphoma, adult T-cell leukemias. So these are the viruses and some of the examples of the cancers which they cause. Coming to the DNA. So DNA is a very sensitive and specific and favorite. So DNA is very important in carcinogenesis. So DNA is the ultimate critical macromolecule in carcinogenesis, because it is found that cancers are transmitted from the parent to the child. So DNA is involved. Chromosomal abnormalities are observed in many of the tumor cells. Chromosomal abnormalities. So DNA is involved. Damage to the DNA causes mutation that leads to carcinogenesis. So all these have been evidence, and experiments have demonstrated that purified oncogenes can transform normal cells into cancer cells. So we'll study about what these oncogenes are, because cancer revolves around some genetic changes. So these evidences caused that DNA is important in carcinogenesis. Before we go on to DNA, we should know about the cell cycle. So cell cycle you have studied in intermediate. It has got S phase, G2 phase, G1 phase. So what are the phases? The S phase is a synthetic phase. Each of the 46 chromosomes is duplicated by the cell. Synthesis of the cell occurs. G2 phase, G stands for gap, the gap phase. The cell checks the duplicate chromosomes for error, making any repairs in the G2 phase. Then that cell division, mitosis, occurs with the help of some cytokines. Okay, cytokine, mitosis occurs. Cell division occurs, and the cell goes into G1 phase. What is G1 phase? Other than the chromosomes, the other contents, cellular contents, are duplicated. So here the cell growth occurs. Cell division in the synthetic phase, the chromosomes are duplicated, and then the cell divides, and the cell contents are reduced. So these are the phases of the cell cycle. The cell cycle is defined as the period from the beginning of one cell division to the beginning of the next cell division. This is called the cell cycle. In this cell cycle, between each cycle, you have some checkpoints. So you have DNA synthesis in the cell phase, G2 phase. You have a checkpoint in the G2, gap 2 phase. You check for the cell size and DNA replication. Then the cell divides. Okay. You have a check again in the cell division, whether the chromosomes have attached properly or not, and then move on to the G1 phase. So the G1 phase, again, there's a checkpoint where you check for nutrient availability. Both factors are there for the cell division to occur. Any DNA is damaged. So all these checks occur in each of the phases of the cell. So there is some regulation. And then the cell division goes into the G0 or the resting phase. So in this cell cycle, the cancer can occur when apparent restriction that normally controls the entry of the mammalian cells from G1 phase into the S phase is disrupted. So G1 to S phase, if the check is disrupted, cancer can occur. So in the cell cycle, this phase is very crucial, and the checkpoint is overcrossed. It leads to cancer. There's disruption in this phase. Now, when you say the cell cycle, we should know how the cell dies also. Cell is regulated growth. Cell grows. Cell dies. You're not born a single cell. The cell goes on multiplying, and the cells go on breaking down and dying and pushed out. So that process called as apoptosis or programmed cell death is a mode of cell death that occurs under normal physiological conditions, and the cell participates in known demise. It's called as cellular suicide. It's required. We don't have the same hair or the nails or the skin we're born with. It looks like that, but the skin and the hair is shedding and growing. So cell also divides, replicates, and dies. And the process is called as apoptosis. So in this process, damaged cells which are mutated are eliminated. If they're not eliminated by apoptosis, cancer cells will develop. So apoptosis also prevents damaged cells from replicating. Hence, a cell's growth is limited in two ways. Inactivation of the growth pathways. The growth pathways are regulation lost, signaling regulations lost, or activation of apoptotic or differentiation pathways. So these two pathways, growth and destruction, it's limited by these two pathways. The tumor is able to develop once it has found a means to bypass these two pathways, overcome the signaling to stop growth, and overcome the cell destruction. The genetic change in a single cell, which is uncontrolled multiplication cell, leads to tumors, which are called as monoclonal tumors, single cell type, which bypasses the growth control and inactivation of the destruction, the two roles of the cell. Now, what are the regulatory genes for the cell growth? Cell growth, going we said, there are regulatory genes. What are they? Proto-oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes. These are two proto-oncogenes. These are cellular oncogenes. These are proto-oncogenes, means they have the potential for cancer, developing into cancer. When and how, we'll study. The genes present within the DNA, which control the cell division and code for very important points such as growth factors, receptors, because some molecules which cannot enter the cell, which are protein molecules which cannot enter the cell, they bind to receptors. Some hormones are proteins, they bind to receptors. So receptors are also produced by the proto-oncogenes of the cell. Signal transduction factors. So these are all coded by the proto-oncogenes within the cell. And these divide for cell division along with the DNA division. Along with mitosis, the cell content also divides. So proto-oncogenes are involved in all these factors. One more is there, that is tumor suppressor genes, which code for factors that downregulate the cell cycle. What are those which decrease the cell cycle? P53 and RB gene. So these two genes downregulate the cell cycle. So proto-oncogene is activated or tumor suppressor gene is inactivated. Very simple. Proto-oncogenes causes multiplication of the cells and tumor suppressor gene is inactivated. So growth is initiated, destruction is prevented. So these two are prevents the normal cell cycle, causing multiplication. So normal growth regulation is diverted into oncogenesis. So let us see diagrammatically picture the normal cell, that is the proto-oncogene. It is for cell growth. It is for cell growth. So it becomes an oncogene, transformed malignant oncogene, constant growth signal. If proto-oncogene is damaged, it becomes an oncogene. So proto-oncogene damage becomes an oncogene. So radiation, UV, carcinogens can cause this change. And coming to the tumor suppressor gene. The tumor suppressor gene it's a brake for cell growth. It is inactivated, it is unchecked, cell growth is suppressed. Coming to proto-oncogene activation, how does it get activated? By four concepts, four theories. Viral insertion of the chromosomes, chromosomal translocations, gene amplification, and point mutation. So let us see one by one. Viral insertion, that is the viral genome is inserted into the host chromosome. Certain retroviruses like RNA viruses, they lack oncogenes. They do not have the cellular oncogenes. And when these viruses infect the host cell, which has got oncogenes, that is proto-oncogenes, a complementary DNA copy of the RNA virus synthesized by reverse transcriptase, and the complementary DNA of this RNA of the viruses is inserted into the host genome. So integrated. So viral genome is multiplied by its own machinery to integrate into the host genome. The integrated double-strand DNA is called provirus. The host genome has multiplied the RNA and is incorporated into its genome. That is called as provirus. Complementary DNA of copies The complementary DNA copies are flanked at both ends by sequences which are called as long terminal repeats, which are important in proviral integration. So these proviruses, they contain some sequences which help in their proliferation. They act as promoters for the transcription of the particular segment. The example is avian. Avian means birds. Avian leukemia, where activation of the proto-oncogenes, Mike oncogene by viral insertion became carcinogens. So, avian leukemia, activation of proto-oncogenes, Mike oncogene leads to carcinogenesis. So, some of the retroviruses have an extra gene. So, here you see SRC gene. SRC gene is the additional gene that gives the virus its capacity to transform the host cell. SRC is an extra gene other than the GAP, POL, and N gene, which are required for reproduction of the virus. This gene is not required for viral replication, but for viral continued reproduction it is required. So, some genes contain, sarcoma oncogenic viruses contain extra gene like SRC gene for viral reproduction. Okay, replication, the other genes will take care. Chromosomal translocations. Examples, Burkitt's lymphoma. That is, you have two chromosomes. Example here you see chromosome number 8, chromosome number 14. 8 contains MYC gene. MYC gene. You see, a rearrangement of the genes occurs here. So you can see a small bit of the MYC of chromosome 8 is cut and transferred to chromosome number 14. Okay. So this Mike gene, the chromosome 8 transferred to 14 becomes activated, leading to uncontrolled proliferation of particular protein molecule, leading to Burkitt's lymphoma. That is B cell lymphocytes, B cell cancer. So this is called as chromosomal translocation. A bit of the chromosome is translocated to another chromosome. Here 8 to 14. So it's called as rearrangement of the genetic material when the chromosomes are split and joined to another chromosome. If both donate, it's called as reciprocal. So in Burkitt's lymphoma, cancer of B lymphocytes, the Mike gene which is translocated gets activated, expresses the proto-oncogene. So here the proto-oncogene is expressed, increase in synthesis of certain proteins. So proteins are expressed more. Gene amplification. So some of the genes producing a particular enzyme, they can be amplified, they produce more of the enzyme. For example, in tumors, the administration of drugs such as methotrexate, which is an anti-cancer drug, it does not work because there's resistance of the tumor cells to this drug because the tumor cells have an enzyme that is dihydrofolate reductase, which is increased activity, which overcomes the action of the drug. So the increased activity causes the cell proliferation. Yes, Redmi? Yes, tell me. Yes, what's the doubt, Redmi? So this is the example of gene which produces more of the enzyme, dihydrofolate reductase example, increased activity gene leading to increased proliferation of the cells. Okay, the tumor cells progress because a normal proto-oncogene is increased production because of increased production of the enzyme required for proliferation of the cells. So this is called as gene amplification. Next one is, the last point is point mutations. That is substitution of one base for another. Change in a particular amino acid where an active protein which has lost its ability to be regulated by external signaling. So one base is changed to another base. Example is a RAS proto-oncogene. A RAS proto-oncogene which codes for GTPase. GTP is converted to GTP. We know guanidine diphosphate converted to GTP. Guanosine triphosphate by cyclic GTP. Okay, so GTP gets inactivated to GTP by GTPase. So this is regulated by RAS protein. So this GTPase enzyme activity is decreased because of defective GTPase activity, because of the loss of Ras protoncogene, which is mutated to Ras oncogene, which produces a protein. GTPase is produced, but it is defective. It's defective because of a point mutation of the protein. Point mutation of which protein? GTPase protein. So GTP is not inactivated to GDP, and therefore the cell division continues. Examples of these RAS mutations are seen in a lot of cancers, such as pancreatic cancer, colon cancer, and lung cancer. So the enzyme GTPase, which inactivates GTP to GDP, which is produced by RAS proto-oncogene, a point mutation of this RAS protein causes defective GTPase enzyme. Therefore, it does not function. So the defective protein is produced, but it is defective, and therefore its activity is lessened, leading to cell growth. Okay, so this is about point mutations. We'll stop the class here today with this, and we'll discuss about the other tumor markers in the next class. So now you have any doubts, you can ask.
No, ma'am.
No doubts? Anyone here? Somebody raised the hand this year, isn't it? Somebody raised the hand here. Okay, please study about this etiology of cancer and carcinogenesis. For the next class, we'll discuss about the tumor markers and how these proto-oncogenes get activated to oncogenes, the mechanisms, and then how it's detected. The next class. Thank you. Thank you. ఏం చేయాలి? Good afternoon. All are logging in now slowly. Come on fast. Online. Here 30 are there, here 37. Okay, I will start the class. I'll stop the video, only the audio. So you listen to my class, okay? ఇది కాదు. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to continue the class about carcinogenesis. Okay. So last class we are studying about how a proto-oncogene is converted to oncogene, isn't it? So what we studied, viral insertion, chromosome translocation, and gene amplification. So these are the processes, and point mutation. So these processes cause conversion of proto-oncogene to oncogene. So among these, viral insertion, chromosome translocation, and gene amplification will increase the amount of the product. So the product amount is increased, quantity is increased due to increased transcription. But the product structure is not altered. And the point mutation is the one which causes change in the structure of the product. But there is no change in the quantity. So understand, among the four, three of them causes an increase in the product concentration. And one of the change, that is a point mutation, causes a change in the structure of the product. So these are the changes which occur in the quality and quantity of the protein. Now coming to proto-oncogenes. So proto-oncogenes are typical cellular genes. So they are present in our normal cells. The typical control sequences, they have a control sequence with introns, and these proto-oncogenes show Mendelian inheritance. So they inherited by Mendelian inheritance. And they're always in the same place and in the same genome. So they do not vary much. So they are similar. And they encode proteins. These proto-oncogenes encode proteins that functions in DNA replication or cell growth and development of the organisms. So this is the proto-oncogene which is inherited. And they're highly conserved. Proto-oncogenes are highly conserved. So this is the characteristics of the proto-oncogenes. Coming to what these proto-oncogenes produce and how these products which produced by the proto-oncogenes helping in the normal cell growth. So what do we see in normal cell growth pathway? You can see growth factors. The growth factors in purple there, okay? The growth factors, the receptors in green, and after binding to receptors, there are some signaling enzymes. These signaling enzymes act on the nucleus, causing activation of transcription factors. And DNA undergoes replication and mitosis, cell will proliferate. So these are the changes produced for cell cycle to occur. So all these products, the growth factor, the receptor, the signaling enzymes, and the transcription factors help in the cell cycle, and these are produced by the proto-oncogenes. So proto-oncogenes produce all these factors in the normal cell growth. Then let us see what are these proto-oncogenes and what are the functions of the proteins they encode. MYC. So this is a proto-oncogene and also present in some oncogenes. And the function of this MYC is to control DNA transcription. And this MYC is found in the nucleus. Next one is SRC. It's a membrane-bound tyrosine kinase proto-oncogene, which codes for proteins which cause signaling of the hormones, signaling molecules like growth factors, binding to tyrosine kinase activity. So these SRC is involved in signaling the hormones binding to the tyrosine kinase on the cell membrane. RAS proto-oncogene that encodes a protein which functions as GTP binding proteins. You have heard of G proteins, G coupled receptors. What is G coupled receptors? Guanine nucleotide binding proteins. So these are actually guanine nucleotide, GTP binding proteins by RAS. They involved in signal transduction from the receptor to the nucleus. The next one is SIS. It is a platelet-derived growth factor. Platelet-derived growth factor, and it codes for growth factors, which we have just seen. One more is ERB. These are some examples. ERB, which is similar to epidermal growth factor receptor, which is also tyrosine kinase activity, and they help in growth factor receptors. So these are the proto-oncogenes: MYC, SRC, RAS, SIS, ERB, FMS. So these proto-oncogenes code for some proteins which help in the transcription of DNA, signaling of the hormone binding, and debinding protein signal transduction, involved in the production of growth factors, involved in the production of growth receptors. So these are the functions of these proto-oncogenes and the products. Let us see few examples of the products of this proto-oncogenes. What are they? Polypeptide growth factors. Examples. PDL, PDGF. You'll be hearing about these examples. What is the full form? Platelet-derived growth factor. And what is function? Angiogenesis, production of new blood vessels. Collagen. What is collagen? Connective tissue. Collagen synthesis. TGFP. What is it? Transforming growth factor beta. And the function of this is fibroblast proliferation and synthesis of connective tissue like collagen. One more is PDEGF. The full form is platelet-derived epidermal growth factor. Helps in cell proliferation, growth, and cell differentiation. Growth and differentiation of cells. VEGF. What is it? Vascular endothelial growth factor. Helps in vascularization. What do you mean vascularization? Blood supply. Establishing the blood supply. IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, which is involved in soft tissue growth. FGF, which is fibroblastic growth factor, involved in wound healing. And angiogenesis. New blood vessels are formed. Angiogenesis, genesis means formation of blood vessels, helps in healing of the wounds. EGF, epidermal growth factor, cell growth and proliferation. So these are the examples of growth factors produced by proto-oncogenes and their functions, which are helped in various functions like vascularization, cell proliferation, cell differentiation, growth of the tissues, wound healing. So these are the examples. Then moving on to what happens in carcinogenesis to this proto-oncogenes. The proto-oncogene undergoes some mutation, which leads on to carcinogenesis, which we have just studied. So what are the types of mutations? Dominant mutation, proto-oncogene. So you can see heterozygote and homozygote. So heterozygote, there are two alleles, a normal and one is mutant. Okay. So the normal allele binds under special circumstances, but the mutant allele always binds to the, does this function? Means the mutated protein is still binding. Okay. So when you see homozygous mutation, both the alleles are mutated, but the function of the protein is retained. That is, the protein always binds. So what is the meaning? The function is not lost. The function is gained in the presence of mutation. So though it is one mutation, which is heterozygote, it's only one, or a homozygous mutation, the function of the protein is gained. So proto-oncogenes become more active and they do not lose their function. So most of the tumors are the result of dominant mutations. Either it is heterozygous or homozygous. The function of the allele is gained and the cell grows when it should not grow. Thus, the mutation is dominant mutation. And in face of the normal also, it is having a dominant mutation. So this is how proto-oncogenes mutate and the function of the proto-oncogene is gained. The cell goes on growing. Coming to the next, the opposite. What is it? Anti-oncogenes or the tumor suppressor genes. So what are they? We have already studied. They are genes which encode proteins that regulate cell during cell division replication. Proto-oncogenes give a cell cycle. Tumor suppressor genes regulate the cell cycle when during the cell division and replication. So what do they do? Is the various functions. They cause repression of genes, which are essential for continuing the progression of the cell cycle. So they repress some genes which prevent the progression of cell cycle. Thereby, they inhibit the cell division. So this is one function. Next is, whenever the cell divides, the DNA is checked. After replication, there's a checking. So in the presence of a DNA, the cell cycle is arrested. By whom? By these tumor suppressor gene products. So whenever there is a DNA damage, the cell cycle is arrested. And what happens in the next step is, the DNA is repaired. by the, again, tumor suppressor gene products. DNA repair is done. And now, again, the tumor suppressor genes allows the cell cycle to continue. The cell cycle stops in the presence of DNA damage, which is repaired, and again, the cell cycle continues. And this is regulated by the tumor suppressor gene, or it's called as anti-oncogenes also, another name. If the DNA damage cannot be repaired, the cell initiates apoptosis. The cell undergoes programmed cell death if the DNA damage cannot be repaired. So this is also under control of the tumor suppressor genes because the damaged cells will die. Some proteins involved in cell addition, they inhibit metastasis. So these proteins are also anti-oncogenes. So these inhibit metastasis. So the functions of these anti-oncogenes are repression of genes, because stop the cell cycle in the presence of DNA damage. When the DNA repair occurs, the cell cycle continues, and the DNA damage cannot be repaired. Our cell undergoes programmed cell death, and some proteins are involved in cell addition. Cell addition means they do not travel, they do not migrate, they bind to each other, and therefore migration is controlled. So this prevents migration. So it limits metastasis. Coming to the examples of some tumor suppressor genes. So you see the gene RB, P53, BCL2. So some examples. So you remember a few examples. And they're located in the particular chromosomes. Like RB is for retinoblastoma gene on chromosome number 13. P53, which is a very basic or very important tumor suppressor gene on chromosome 17. And these are located on different chromosomes. You can see 13, 17, 9, 18, 17, 17, and 5. Okay, so the location of these gene products are in the nucleus, the mitochondria, and in the cytoskeleton, means in the cytoplasm. So these genes can be formed in these locations. And what is the function of each of these genes? Located in the nucleus, the RB gene is involved in cell cycle. P53 gene present in chromosome number 17, located in the nucleus, involved in DNA repair. And if the DNA cannot be repaired, the cell undergoes apoptosis. And INK4A, chromosome number 9, located in the nucleus, helps in again cell cycle and initiates P53 function. BCL2, chromosome 18, present in the mitochondria, undergoes or helps in apoptosis. And BRCA2, chromosome 17, the nucleus, helps in DNA repair. And some help in metastasis also. Some of the genes help in metastasis. APC in the cytoplasm helps in cell-to-cell recognition. When the cell-to-cell recognition is there, the cell stops dividing. So these are the tumor suppressor genes located in the various locations in the cell and helping in the cell cycle, repair, and recognition of the cells. Coming to what happens to these tumor suppressor genes when they're mutated, that is onset of carcinogenesis. For these anti-oncogenes, you can see here RB gene. For RB is for retinoblastoma, for example. This RB gene, we have got two alleles. It gives the RB protein. When there's a mutant RB protein, which binds and controls the cell cycle. So there is the other one still codes, so the normal protein function is retained. The function is retained. Still it prevents. But suppose the second allele also is mutated. The function is lost. There is no binding and growth continues. So here, unlike the proto-oncogenes, mutation in one, still because of the other allele is normal, it still does its function, controls the cell cycle is normal function. When the second allele also is mutated, then the function is lost. So if one allele is mutated, it does not work. The other can still code for the normal protein, then the function is retained here. In order to lose this function, second allele also has to be lost. That is called as recessive mutation. It causes a loss of the function. So here you're seeing a different nature of mutation where both the alleles have to be lost for the function to be lost, unlike proto-oncogenes. So this is one example of anti-oncogenes mutation in the tumor suppressor genes. So examples of some tumor suppressor genes and what is the nature of the cancer. So we see examples. A gene by the name of DCC. Its function is cell surface interactions, and the cancer is called as colorectal cancer. So any disruption or any mutation of the DCC causes colorectal cancer. WT1, the function is transcription, and inheritance, familial, Wilms tumor. Familial means it is inherited by genetic. Sporadic means that is some mutations randomly occurring. So whenever there's a genetically inherited familial mutation, it leads to Wilms tumor. And whenever there's a sporadic mutation, it leads to lung cancer. RB1 gene involved in transcription, and the disorder inherited as retinoblastoma. Sporadic, that is second allele also is affected. It causes small cell lung carcinoma. P53, which is very important and central mechanism involved in transcription, and Li-Fraumeni syndrome, if it's inherited. Sporadic mutation leads to breast cancer, colon cancer, and lung cancer. BRCA gene, transcription, involved transcription. The disorder is breast cancer, it's inherited, and sporadic mutation leads to breast or ovarian tumors. So these are the tumor suppressor genes and the functions and inherited disorders. Suppose there is a sporadic mutation, it leads to a different set of cancers. Coming to the differences now, after studying about proto-oncogenes and oncogenes and the mutations, so what are the differences between these two, oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes? So oncogene, that is a proto-oncogene becomes oncogene when the mutation in one of the two alleles is sufficient for activity. So even one is mutated, it becomes an oncogene. A tumor suppressor gene, mutations in both alleles, or mutation one followed by loss or reduced activity in homozygosity of the second. So that's from mutations in equal mutations in both alleles. In oncogene, the gain of function of protein that signals cell division function is gained in oncogene, and tumor suppressor gene function of the protein is lost. In oncogene, mutation is seen in somatic tissues, that is in the muscle tissue, etc. In somatic tissues, it's not inherited. But in tumor suppressor gene, the mutation is present in germ cell. Therefore, it is inherited mutation, and also somatic cells presented. So the genetic mutation presenting in the somatic cells is the difference. Some tissue preference is seen in oncogenes, but in tumor suppressor gene, strong tissue preferences. Example, retinoblastoma 1 seen in the retina, tumors of the retina. So these are the major difference between oncogene and the tumor suppressor genes, where the mutations, the nature of mutations, the functionality, a gain or loss of function, and whether it's inherited or not inherited, and the tissue preferences are differentiating the oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes functions. Coming to the abbreviations and how do you differentiate a cellular and viral oncogenes? The oncogene is present in a tumor cell. When a proto-oncogene becomes an oncogene, it becomes a cancerous cell. So it is present as C. C means cellular oncogene. That is C is cellular. Suppose it's present in normal cells, it is called as proto-oncogene. It's present as cellular oncogene, C-onc, as proto-oncogene. Suppose it is a viral oncogene, we call it as V-onc. That is V means viral, C means cellular. V-onc, example, V RAS. Just now we saw some proto-oncogenes, RAS, RAS, V, that is viral. And proto-oncogenes represent V, viral, RAS, proto-oncogene. So this is cellular and viral. Presentation, the nomenclature presentation given as C and V as proto-oncogenes presentation. Coming to some of the examples of oncogenes present in the retrovirus. So we studied up some DNA, RNA viruses. Retroviruses, what do you mean by retroviruses? RNA to DNA. So that is by reverse transcriptase. So such enzymes present in viruses, that virus is called as retroviruses. So ABL gene, ERB gene, FES, FOS, JUN, MYC. So some you're seeing as proto-oncogene also. But even in viral, you can see this genome. Is SR. So these are the oncogenes that are present in the retroviruses. what origin? Mouse, chicken, cat, can be seen monkey. Okay, so these are the retroviruses seen in these animal origins. And these are the names of the retroviruses, like Abelson murine leukemia virus causes leukemia, avian erythroblastosis virus, feline sarcoma virus, murine sarcoma virus, avian sarcoma virus. Okay, and these are the products. They produce protein tyrosine kinase or growth factor receptors which are truncated. Truncated means they're shortened, which are shortened. Some transcription factors, DNA binding proteins, protein tyrosine kinase activity. Please mute your audio because I can hear some people talking on the other side. Please make your audio mute from your side. Okay, so we'll continue. So these are the oncogenes of retroviruses present in animals, and they produce some proteins, products involved in the cell cycle and replication and transcription, involved in cell growth. Coming to the development of cancer, this is the overview. So now we are seeing the cancer cell is carcinogenesis occurs because of overexpression of the oncogene overexpression, or decreased expression of the tumor suppressor gene. Its activity is decreased, leads to carcinogenesis. So when you can see the oncogenes are RAS, SRC, MYC, and anti-oncogenes or tumor suppressor genes are P53, RB, APC. Examples we've just studied. These are the examples of oncogenes and examples of anti-oncogenes. So oncogene expression is more, tumor suppressor gene expression is decreased. Function gained, function lost in tumor suppressor gene. So this leads to carcinogenesis. So this discovery took place from 1980 to 1990, and this led to the hypothesis of cancer carcinogenesis. So these are the relationships between the normal cell cycle, that is the factors, growth factor, receptors, signaling factors, enzymes, and the DNA transcription factors, cell cycle proteins, which involved in the proto-oncogenes and the products involved in the normal cell cycle. And neoplastic cells, what do you see? Increase in the growth factors, increase in the receptors, increase in the signaling molecules, increase in the transcription of the DNA, replication transcription, leading to increase in the cell division. So neoplastic cells all are double. Cell cycle becomes more because of the presence of more growth factors and more receptors, more signaling, and more transcription, leading to cell division. So the normal products are activated additionally. Now coming to the malignant cell. After malignancy has set in, what is the cell properties? So there are some general and morphological changes. The morphology of the cell, the transformed cells are much rounder. So normally cells are oval in shape, but here they become more rounder in shape. The cytoskeletal structure, what do you mean by cytoskeletal structure? The cytoskeletal is the composition of the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is fluid, but how does the shape of the cytoplasm be maintained? By the cytoskeleton. So it's made up of actin filaments. So changes in the actin filaments changes the structure of the cell. That is, cytoskeletal structure is changed. Next is, when two cells normally come in contact with each other, they stop moving. They stop moving. That is called as contact inhibition. So there is loss of contact inhibition of movement of these cells. The normal cells, normally they form a single layer of cells. When they meet each other, they stop growing, and it's a monolayer, and they cannot move away from each other. But in cancer cells, the cells do not stop when they meet each other. They grow over each other, leading to multi-layers, lot of layers. The cell density is increased, thickness, and the cells can move freely, leading to metastasis. The one more property is anchorage. That anchorage means like ship is anchored to the shore, isn't it? Anchorage means you drop an anchor. So what is the normal? Normal cells firmly anchored to the surface or adhere to the surfaces. But the transformed cells do not adhere. They can grow without attachment to the surface of the cells. They've seen this in the culture. So this is called as loss of anchorage dependence. One more property is altered permeability. The cell becomes more permeable and the transport properties change. And the final property is increased secretion of certain growth factors. That is, growth factor production is increased. Though it does not require, it produces growth factors. So these are the general changes. Becomes rounder, changes in the cytoskeleton, loss of contact inhibition, the cells are free to move, loss of anchorage dependence, they do not adhere, they migrate, lead to metastasis, the permeability is altered, and they produce growth factors in more. Coming to the biochemical changes in the malignant cell. Malignant cell. There's increased replication, transcription, increased activity of ribonucleotide reductase, synthesis of DNA, RNA is more. Increased glycolysis occurs because there's more of anaerobic and aerobic glycolysis because energy demand, cell is dividing actively. So more energy demands, multiplying cells, glycolysis increased, both types, aerobic and anaerobic. Decreased catabolism pyrimidines. So DNA catabolism, DNA pyrimidines are decreased. Isoenzyme profiles are altered, fetal patterns are occurring. Fetal proteins are synthesized such as carcinoembryonic antigen, alpha fetoprotein. So these proteins are seen in fetal life and they become active again in adult life, again reactivated. Alteration cell surface composition of glycoproteins, glycosphingolipids, secretion of certain proteases. So these are cell composition of the malignant cells are altered. Those factors are increased, such as hormones. Though they're not required, the production is increased. So these are the changes, biochemical changes of a cancer cell. Now, what is metastasis? Metastasis refers to the spread of cancer cells from the primary site, so primary tumors of origin, to the other tissues of the body. That is called as metastasis. Then the cancer cells after migrating to other far off places, they get deposited and they grow as secondary tumors. So primary tumors in one area, they migrate by metastasis, get deposited in other areas and start growing there as secondary tumors. And the metastasis, this migration property or metastasis, the major cause of cancer-related morbidity and mortality. And what are the factors responsible for metastasis? What we have studied. The morphal changes in the cancer cells, loss of contact inhibition, loss of anchorage dependence, and alteration in the structure of the macromolecules present on the cytoskeleton and also on the cell surface. So all these changes are responsible for metastasis, which causes primary and secondary tumors. Coming to one more important is telomeres and telomerase activity. What are telomeres? You have studied in physiology and anatomy, you have studied. The chromosomes, they have telomeres at the ends. They're structures which are composed of DNA and they have some sequences at the ends of the tips. Okay, repeated sequence like TTAGG repeats at the corner of the chromosomes. They confer stability to the chromosomes. The telomeres maintained by a special reverse transcriptase telomerase activity. So normally, in normal cell, you can see the telomeres. The telomeres are lost with cell death and it goes apoptosis. But in cancer, the telomeres are still present and the cell goes on dividing because the telomeres are not shortened. So this is called as telomeres. The activity is lost in healthy cell. The cells died. The telomerase activity also decreases and the cell undergoes apoptosis, programmed cell death. But in cancer, the telomerase activity is not over. The telomeres are present and the cell continues to grow. So this is the difference between normal cell and cancer cells with respect to telomeres and telomerase enzyme activities. There is some hypothesis called as epigenetic hypothesis. That is changes in the regulation of gene expression rather than genetic apparatus. Regulation of gene expression is epigenetic around the genome. Failure of immune surveillance, the neoplastic cells which are damaged may escape recognition and destruction and therefore they become clinical cancers. And one more hypothesis, nutritional oncogenesis. Low fiber diet, colonic cancer. Fatty diet, breast cancer. You eat bitter leaves, that is pan, parag, etc., oral cancer. And then they say there are some protective agents which are not proved, like antioxidant effects, like beta carotene, vitamin C, vitamin E, selenium. So these are supposed to have some protective actions which are not established. So this is about nutritional oncogenesis. Hormones, some hormones induce neoplasms, like estrogen causes breast cancer, diethylstilbestrose used in females cause vaginal and uterine cancer. Both they're used in females for the okay. And then hormone dependent neoplasms. Neoplasm not caused by hormones but depend on hormones for growth, and the neoplastic cells which have receptors for binding hormones. So examples are prostate cancer, it depends on PSA for more cancer. Breast cancer depends on estrogen. Thyroid cancer, thyroxine. So these are dependent on the hormones they produce. So the hormone does not cause cancer, but the cancer cells depend on the hormones for their propagation and longevity. Genetic oncogenesis, as we told, Mendelian inheritance, dominant or recessive inheritance, like you have retinoblastoma, Wilms tumor of the kidneys. Polygenic inheritance, related individuals can inherit, like breast cancer, colon cancer, it runs in the family, you say. So many people, related individuals can inherit it. And some of the mutations are associated with inherited disease, like some syndromes where the chromosome is very fragile, chromosome of fragility, and syndromes of immunodeficiency. So these are all inherited by genetic, dominant or recessive, polygenic inheritance, or with associated inherited disease. So these are about the oncogenesis. In the next class, we'll study about tumor markers. We'll stop with this class. In the next class, we'll study about tumor markers. So hope all have understood. You have any doubts, you can raise your hands. If you have any doubts,